want to show you how to make a hat rack. I like wearing a cowboy hat, and it's not a good idea. Sometimes it messes the brim up if you lay them down flat on something. It just helps if you've got a rack to hang a hat on, and I'm going to show you why. If say you've got this hat that you use for a little yard work, and you come in and you're tired, you want to sit down and get a cold beer right quick, and so I just hang my hat up, you put it on the wall, and that happens. That happens every time if you hadn't got a rack or a hook to hang it on. Even if you got a floppy sun hat and you try to hang it on the wall, it just won't hang. Works the same way with cap. If you hadn't got a rack, then it's going to fall off the wall. So today I'm going to show you how to build an inexpensive hat rack that works just as good as the highest price one you can buy. Okay, now this is a piece of driftwood I found in Florida several years ago, just off the coast of Florida in the Atlantic Ocean. And as you can see, it's just an old piece of driftwood, but I made a hat rack out of it. I went to a craft store back in those days and bought these pegs, and ever so often I put a peg in it to hang a hat or a coat or just whatever you wanted on it. Let me show you. Let me get my old work hat right here, and I'll show you how well this thing works. It's got a peg on it. You hang your hat like that, and it's ready for you when you go out, ready to go out the door. Now, there's an interesting story on this piece of driftwood, and I'm going to tell you about it. If you will notice right here on this end, this side is kind of rounded, and the side I've got up against the wall is good and flat. Okay, now there's a reason for that, and I'll get to it in a little bit. And if you'll notice also, it's a piece of driftwood and it's been weathered, how the water's cut it and washed and cut down here and made it sort of an uneven top edge, but it looks good. But right here, when this thing was originally made, and we think it was made back in the 1400s or maybe a little earlier, there was a notch cut out in it, and it went all the way down straight. But like I said, water and waves and sand and salt in the ocean cut away at some of it. But you can tell that was a notch at one time was cut into this piece of driftwood. And I'm going to tell you that story in just a few minutes. The whole thing is about 50 inches long, and it's about 8 inches wide. Let me get a ruler so you'll have an idea of the size of it. You can see right there that it's about 8 inches, not quite, but almost, and it's about 50 inches from end to end. So I'm going to tell you that story in just a moment. Now, the first thing you need to do before you start any project at home or at work or anywhere is you need to be refreshed. So let's get in the refrigerator right here and see what we can find. I don't want a piece of candy, or a Pepsi or Powerade. Here's what we're looking for, right here. And we'll get this out on the porch with us, and I'll tell you the story on the piece of driftwood. Okay, now we're on my front porch out here, and hadn't been much traffic go by until I walked out. I feel like Gus on Lonesome Dove. It's a good movie you need to watch sometime, but there at the first of the movie, they were sitting on the porch one night, and Gus made the comment that the only way this man had a chance at an education was sitting there listening to him talk. And that's the way people in my hometown of Wadley feel about me. They think, well, the only way we're going to know anything, learn anything, is sit up there and listen to Jim talk about whatever he needs to tell us about. So anyway, that's what we're going to do. First of all, we're going to do this right here, though. We're going to open up one of these and take a good cool, refreshing drink, and put the cap right there so it won't be out in the yard, and I hit it with a lawnmower and put somebody's eye out. I wouldn't want to do that. And but anyway, I want to tell you about this piece of driftwood that I made a hat rack out of, the one you just looked at. And keep that notch in mind. Now, that little notch was about an inch. It came up about 10 or 12 inches up the board, and then it was notched in about an inch, and there's a reason for that. Several years ago, me and a friend of mine, Steve Brooks is his name, you may have heard of that name. He's a real famous man down around Auburn. In He's in the transportation business. But anyway, nowadays he is. But at this particular time, back in the late '70s, early '80s, he and I both were unemployed, and there was a lot of talk in those days of male fisher down in Florida. He was hunting the Atocha, a Spanish galleon that had sank off the coast of Florida, I think in the 1500s. And anyway, we decided that's what we would do if they were just ships laying out there full of gold. But we needed to go down there and get some gold off of one. But unfortunately, we never did find one. But I did use a pendulum one time and located the exact location of the Atocha. It don't work all the time for me. Pendulums don't. But what I did, you're probably sitting there wondering, well, how did you do that? Well, I'll tell you. You just get you a road map of Florida, one that shows some of the ocean on out from the Keys, and you just hold your pendulum over that map, and where it starts swinging back and forth, you get one direction like north-south, then you turn around and you get a direction east-west, and that will pinpoint where whatever you're looking for is. But that's what I did with Atocha. But we never found what we were looking for. We didn't exactly know what the name of the ship was, but we were down near Indian River Shoals is where we were. And it's a good place down there if you need to do some drinking and laying out in the sun on the beach and stuff. We stayed down there for several months. But we would like go into town. Well, there were several little towns around on the weekend down near Indian River shores, and it's very close to Vero Beach down there. I remember going up there drinking, and Pine Island Bay was always a good place. But now one place you need to watch out for is Mosquito Lagoon. Now them sumbitches eat you alive up there. They're damn mosquitoes are big as damn cars up there, but carry you off. Matter of fact, one got Steve by the arm one afternoon, and if I hadn't grabbed him by the ankle and snatched him back, they'd have probably took him off, and he would have been a big meal for 4 or 5 of them. But anyway, I want to tell you about this piece of driftwood. He and I were out there in the ocean searching for any type of evidence or clues to maybe a shipwreck that had sank out there. And where we were is right off the beach. Somebody else needing education. We were right off the beach. We were actually in the Atlantic Ocean out there. Of course, that's where the ships were going to sink. We figured that out pretty quick from talking to Mel and his crew. That you probably wasn't going to find a ship that had sunk on land. It was probably going to be in the ocean, more than likely. So that's where he and I were looking that day, and something hit my toe. I didn't know what it was. I didn't know if a shark had come up and bit me, or a big sand turtle, or whatever. But anyway, we got to feeling around down there, and I could remember I told you one side was curved. And when I felt that, I thought we had found the top of a treasure chest. So he and I got real excited. We thought we had come up with something pretty good that day. But anyway, all we pulled up was this one board. And we got it back on the shore, and needless to say, we wasn't too happy with just finding a board. But later on, when we found out what it was, we were real happy that we found it. We got it on the shore and examined it, and after looking at it, that was what he and I decided, that this thing had been notched by human hands at one time, that it was probably a piece of boat, something that went on a boat or whatever, but it did have a notch in it, and we could tell that, even though, as you saw a while ago, it had a lot of wear on it from the sea and the sand and that type of stuff. But anyway, we brought it on back home with us, and that was several months later. I just put it in the back of the Cherokee. We had a Cherokee down there that we like to ride around in and drink in and just whatever. Well, we camped out in it a lot and everything, but it laid back there in the back of the Cherokee for several months, and finally we got back to Wadley. We got up enough money to get back home, and Wadley has a major university or college, whatever you'd like to call it here. It is known worldwide. It's one of the largest educational facilities in the southeast. Southern Union College. You've probably heard of that, but or you may have been there. But anyway, after we got back home, I wanted to do something with this artifact or piece of driftwood that we found, and I decided a good thing would be to make a hat rack out of it. So like I said, I went to a arts and crafts store and purchased the little pegs, and I just randomly spaced them out. I didn't measure or get on the computer and try to figure anything out or look up what other people had done. I just randomly drilled some holes in it and took some Elmer's wood glue and stuck the pegs in there, and by gosh, they worked pretty good. As you can see a while ago, it was holding the hat up off the floor, and I have got a dog. I'll show you him in a minute. If something gets on the floor, I'd be afraid that he might pee on it, and I wouldn't want nobody peeing in my hat, anything. So anyway, the hat rack works pretty good. But one afternoon, I was sitting here, and Steve had been by, and he said, "Well, what you going to do with that piece of driftwood we found?" And I said, "I'm going to make a hat rack out of it." And he said, "You really need to get somebody over to college to look at it and see what they think of it." So that's what I decided to do. There was a man over there that I knew. I had known him for years. He wasn't a professor or college dean, or he didn't have an office job or anything. He worked in the maintenance department. He cut grass and trimmed hedges and did painting. And last time I was over that way, he was painting the lines in the parking lot out there. He's just a multi-talented, very heck intelligent jack of all trades. And so I just rode over there one afternoon, made a special trip. It's about 2 blocks north of me, and I made a special trip over there to the college that afternoon and found him. I had to ask a couple people where he was, and they said, "Well, he's probably laying in maintenance shop up there." I said, "In the shade, probably doing nothing." And sure enough, that's where I found him on a stack of tires over there that come off one of the buses. He also changed tires and stuff like that on the team bus that the baseball team uses to travel around in. I went there and told him what I thought I had. I said, I'm really not sure what it is, but I'd like you to come look at it because you do work at the college, so that sort of makes you an expert on everything. And he knew everything about everything and anything. You could ask him, and no matter what you talked about, he knew what it was and could tell you all about it. So I told him he needed to come over and look at this artifact, or piece of driftwood, whatever you want to call it. So we made an appointment, and he came by, and after examining it, it was his opinion, his educated opinion, that this was more than just a piece of wood that had came off an old boat or something like it, because of the notch was what gave it away, and the way the end was kind of rounded. What it is a plank. It's the plank that people walk. When you've heard the expression "walk the plank" on a ship, that's what he feels like it is, especially since one side was rounded and one side was flat, so you could walk on it a little easier. And it's only the whole thing's only 50 inches, and we figure about 12 inches was what they slid up into the side of the boat to hold it, so you could step on it and walk the plank. So I asked him, I said, "Well, what ship do you think this might have came off of?" And after extensive research that he did on it, he reads a lot of comic books too, and he's just really well educated. He probably reads 5 or 6 comic books a month, and anyway, he looked at it, and I think he had DNA testing did on it, or carbon dating and that type of stuff. And he said that it was his personal opinion that he actually believed that this board, this plank, was one that was used by Christopher Columbus on the Santa Maria when they were coming over and somebody messed up or did something they wasn't supposed to and they made them walk the plank. This was an actual plank that they had to walk. And he made a special trip to Florida. Well, while we were down there, we made friends with some of the Indians down there, and we lived in one of their villages for several weeks down there. They took us in as one of their own and taught us a lot of ways of the Florida Seminole Indians down there. And he actually believes that this, from where they said Columbus actually landed when he came over, was just within a mile or two of where we found this board. And that led more evidence to believe that it did come off the Santa Maria with Christopher Columbus. So anyway, I feel very fortunate to have that board, that plank. It was called a plank back in those days. But later, the guy that works at the maintenance department came back over and said he had still been doing research on the plank, and he said, I asked him what else had he come up with, and he said, well, he knew I was wanting a monetary value on it because I was thinking about putting it on eBay and auctioned off selling. And he said all of his research showed that he had compiled on it that the plank alone was probably worth $10,000. To put it on eBay, he said he wouldn't start it off a penny under $10,000. And then with the pegs and the work that I had put in it, that would add to the value. And of course, the trip from Wadley down to, well, just say Vero Beach, actually Indian River Shore is where we found it. So that would be worth several $100s making a trip down there. And of course, if you make it in a car or a truck, it would be one price. But if you walked, if you had to walk down there and back, it would make the trip more valuable. Or if you rode a horse with a wagon or something like that, as people did in olden days. But anyway, that's the story on the plank that I made a hat rack out of. But right now we'll get back to making an inexpensive hat rack that you can use in your home or office. Now, here's what we're gonna take a little ride on to go hunt our materials to make this hat rack. And anyway, let's make sure we have everything. Let's see, here's the key, and here's a oil rag or a rag to wipe sweat with, because we know we're gonna get hot when we start working. Let's see, but we got something to cool off with, and the cup holder's full, and we got our trailer to bring back anything we might find, like another piece of Columbus's ship. And we got a 5-gallon bucket here in case we need to pick up some rocks or acorns, or maybe we need to use the bathroom. A 5-gallon bucket's always good for that. And when we get started here in just a minute, let's see, we got headlights on it. We're going to want to turn the lights on for safety. We don't want anybody to get run over with this lawnmower. Okay, so let's get started on our adventure. Okay, now I just want to let you know where we're headed. We're here on at Sasquatch Junction is what we call this place. And if you'll look down there on that fence line, there's a big chinaberry tree. And that's where we're headed, down there, along this little dry creek bed. And there's another tree small tree under that big chinaberry tree that I'm going to cut down anyway. But I'm going to show you what to be looking for, because we're going to make this hat rack out of branches, out of a tree. But anyway, here we go. Now, here's the little tree that I'm going to cut down. I don't need two trees right here together. But what you're looking for is a little branch that comes off of the main body, about like this, about this size, about as big as your finger. The one you're going to put on the wall is a little bit bigger. And anyway, you're going to want to leave about 4 inches in here, and maybe about 4 up here and 4 down here to where you can attach it to the wall. That would be a good one. This one right up here above it would be pretty good. And if you had a real heavy hat, I guess this big one would be good. But anyway, there's several hat racks that can come out of this tree. I'm not going to cut it today. I already have a piece of wood at the shop that fell out of the tree a few days ago, and we're just going to use it. And while we're here, we're going to take a quick peek up the fence line and then back down the other way. This is a big wilderness out here, and you never know, it could be a Sasquatch sitting in some of these bushes out here, just waiting to jump on the lawnmower and take off. I have had that happen a few times, and sometimes it's taken me 2 or 3 weeks to find my lawnmower and trailer. Or you might have to wrestle one down, take it back away from him. Here we are outside my shop, and this is a limb that fell out of an oak tree here, and as you'll see, it's already got one that's about right. And what we're going to do is I checked it. I broke off some of the little bitty branches to get them out of the way. I checked it, and it seems like it's in pretty good shape. It won't break or anything. So what we're going to do is go in here, and I'll show you how to trim it real quick and to make a hat rack. Okay, now this saw, when I turn it on, is pretty loud, so I won't be saying anything while it's on because you can't hear me anyway, but you can sort of watch me the way that I have to trim this up. What we're wanting is this piece here. What I'm doing there is see if it's going to lay flat up against the wall. So this is the way it'll be in just a minute or two. And with this, usually comes on out, but since it's bent up a little bit, I'm going to leave a little bit of that on there. Always remember not to cut too much. You can always keep it cutting, but you can't put it back on unless you got some good duct tape. But I believe that will be pretty good on the side of the wall. Get this little piece off. Okay, we'll go find a drill now and see if we can put a hole in it. Okay, now what we're going to do is put 2 holes in our rack so we can mount it to the wall. what I'm going to be using are drywall screws. The reason being, a drywall screw has a very sharp tip, so it's easy to get it going into the wall, and the threads really cut quickly, so it'll pull up quick. But that'll be in just a minute. Alright, what do, you sort of position it the way you want it on the wall, and it looks like that's going to be it. And it looks like we got it cut pretty flat, so I'm going to attempt to put a hole in it. One other thing to check for is always make sure your drill isn't bigger than the head on the screw, because if it is, it'll go all the way through and won't hold anything. So as you can see, the bit that's going to be cutting the hole is smaller than the head of the screw. So let's see if we can get a hole in it. Hold it about like you want it on the wall and just sort of eye it. And here we go. Maybe you can't see that. Let me get around like this. And if you don't want to get into your work surface, pick it up and push it on through. Pull it back out. There you go. Now you got a hole in it now, and that's what you want. Okay, now you got it laying here about like this, so let's get us another one about right here. Let's get another one about right here. So start the drill off slow till it gets it a hole going, and go through it. Like I said, if you don't want to go through your work surface, pick it up and just sort of let the bit eat through. Okay, now you got your 2 holes in this hat rack to mount it with, and like I say, there you are. That's going to be like that, and this one will be on the bottom, and should hold your hat or your cap or your purse or anything that's got a handle that you need to hang on the wall. Now you can take 2 of these branches like this, cut them like this. People used to years ago. That's what they made gun racks out of, and I'll try to make one of those one of these days when it ain't so hot. It ain't but about 100 degrees today, but anyway, let's go back to the room we started in, and I'll put this on the wall and show you how it works. Okay, boys and girls, here we are back where we started the video, trying to hang a hat on the wall. It's still laying in the floor, and if you remember, there's not a rack up there. There's the old floppy sun hat. Very good. Here's a yard working hat that I like to wear. And even a Wrangler cowboy hat made by Wrangler, with a special cool lock sweatband. High dollar right here, high dollar. But keep in mind, if you don't have a hat rack, the same thing happens every time. Okay, here we go now. What we want to do is we'll show you how to mount the hat rack to the wall. And if you hear a little roar in the background, it's air conditioner. I've had to turn the air conditioner on. But we'll do that to get a little refreshment in us. I got in the habit of putting these caps back on or putting them in my pocket, because I don't want Jimmy Buffett to get up here and cut his heel on a pop top or a pull tab or anything. But anyway, let me get the drill. This is a cordless, chuckless drill. They just keep coming out with improvements day after day. And here's the bit in it that we just used. And that's the way you get the old bit out, and you put a driver head, I guess is what it's called. I'm sure there's a scientific name for it that I don't know. But this is the way I do it. It tightens right back up, and it's ready now. So let me get the hat rack. Now I'm just going to mount the hat rack on the wall here temporarily. What I'm going to do with it is put it by my front door, so when I come in I just take my hat off and hang it right there, and when I get ready to leave, it'll be right there where I can find it. Sometimes, have been times, let me put this over here so I won't look so awkward. There have been times, and people tell me it's because of these damn things. I can't find my hat or nothing else. I can usually find these. You usually find these, but you have to learn how to drink if you live where I do. Okay, now what you do is you just kick a hat out of the way, and you take your drywall screw. Now this drywall screw is about 1 5/8 inch, and as you can see, it'll go all the way through it and well into the wall. Now with just hanging hats, you don't have to worry about where a 2x4 a stud is in the wall, because the hat's not going to be that heavy. And what I'd like to do is I just put it in the hole and just eye it, just position it where you want it on the wall. And what I'm going to have to do is get my other eyes on here. That's a hell of it, getting old. You go blind, everything quits working. What does work, hell, you don't want it to. And, but anyway, I'm going to have to get over here on the other side. I'll be right-handed. You just put the driver in there, and I always turn it a little bit to make sure it's locked in place there. Okay? And you just sort of position it wherever you would like it. Whatever height and everything you want. And then, like I said, the drywall screw has a real sharp tip, and it just begins to pull itself right on in there. And it's not hard to tie it yet, but I didn't want to get it real tight because I'm going to take it down. But anyway, that's pretty close. Now I can take my eyes off and show you something now. It's going to be hard to believe. It's time and time we hung hats up here and they kept falling, but now we put an end to that. Watch this. That deserves a drink. Yeah. Cowboy hats, your yard working hat. Put the cowboy hat right back over there. Get everything picked up out of the floor. It's holding, okay? Put it over there out of the way. I left my cap somewhere, but it works for caps too. Even your old floppy sun hat you wear to the beach. Look at there. Holds it right in place. Just like a brand, just like you went to the store and paid $2,000 or $3,000 for this thing. Now here are some hat bands. And watch this. You can put that like that in case you want to change a hat band, like you got a hat band you work in, and then one you go party in. Well, you got it right there. And you can even put your hat up there with them without the hat band on it. Doesn't matter. But anyway, I just wanted you to see how to make a real inexpensive. These good for like if your house is decorated country style or a log cabin or something like that. But now what you would want to do, I almost left that out. I got one drywall screw up here at the top, and where you're going to mount it permanent, you'd want to put your other one down here at the bottom. But like I said, I'm going to take it off this wall and hang it by the front door. So when I come in, I can hang my hat. I can drink as many of these as I can afford, and hopefully find my hat when I get ready to go get some more. Unless some bitch comes in and moves it, hides it. But anyway, I got one other thing I want to tell you before I let you go. Well, I guess we can just leave that there now, because it ain't hopefully it ain't gonna fall. Now then, here we are one more time. A little bit ago you saw my old work hat, and I just bought this hat and I'm breaking it in. trying to get it going, and this is a hat I had for a while. And anyway, I hope you have learned how to make a real inexpensive country type, western type hat rack. And if you got 15 or 20 hats, you might want to find a limb that's got several little branches coming off of it, and that way you could hang them all. But I do one at a time like that. One other thing I want to tell you about the plank artifact that we found. Back whenever Steve and I were in Florida for that summer, and on into the fall, he caught sharks and live, and we sold them to restaurants where they made. They had ways of flavoring them up to make it like barbecue and make it taste like beef and sausage and everything else. So if you might want to go to Florida, since jobs are kind of hard to find now, he and I have got a little bit old. We can't wrestle sharks down anymore, but Steve learned how from Steve Irwin, as a matter of fact, and over in Australia several years ago. It was Steve Brooks that actually developed the technique for wrestling down the shark, and he showed it to Steve Irwin. But anyway, we sold them to, like I said, restaurants, and they would flavor it with pork fat, make sausage out of it sometimes, and then you could slice it and add like Heinz 57 and stuff like that to it, and it would taste like beef. So you might want to try that sometime. Go out and back in those days, in the 70s and 80s, now the state of Florida, game and fish down there, they didn't care for us catching them, because they wanted them off from alongside the beaches anyway where people were. But now I don't know if they don't mind them eating people or whatever. But you might want to look into that. It was a lot of fun living with the Indians, hunting artifacts and sunken ships, and wrestling sharks. And we did that for about a year one time. So you might want to try it. I got a scar or two I can show you where I got bit, but we'll save that for another video. Well, it has certainly been one hell of a day in the neighborhood, as Mr. Rogers would say. And I hope you join in again when we do another how-to video.